Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Lorenzo. I'm here just to do a quick review for hemostasis. This is actually part of the video that I was supposed to make for hemodynamics. So this is part of that, okay? So basically we want to ask, what is hemostasis, the differences between hemostasis and thrombosis, components of hemostasis, mechanisms of hemostasis, properties of endothelium, and the properties of platelets. Okay, that's going to be discussed in the video that the slides that have been provided by Dr. Ashwin, and so basically I'm going to try to cover that in this lecture here. So in cases of normal blood vessels, we don't need and want any clot formation, right? So we do need these clot formations in injured blood vessels. Okay. So basically, what is hemostasis and difference that with thrombosis? So hemostasis, just know, is physiological. It's normally in normal blood vessels. There's no clot formation. In case of injured blood vessels, we do have clots. Thrombosis is pathological. Clots is seen in normal blood vessels, unfortunately, in thrombosis, and in minor injuries, clot formation leads to blockade of blood vessels. Right. So hemostasis, there's three things we have to take into consideration. The blood vessels, what leads to hemostasis, maintains hemostasis, blood vessels, blood vessel wall, platelets, and formation of fibrin, right? For blood vessel wall, we have endothelium and subendothelial connective tissue. And then we have platelets, formation of fibrin. Fibrin is basically coagulation and cascading effects. So the three important steps observed in here is vasoconstriction, primary hemostasis, secondary hemostasis, and fibrinolysis, right? So in this diagram that I tried to provide here, we observe platelets, then we see the basement membrane, we see the the blood vessel wall, and the subendothelium connective tissue collagen, right? So basically, what happens that's in a normal situation, but what happens during a pathological situation like an injury? So following injury, the first step, we have vasoconstriction, is also known as reflex neurogenic reaction. Smooth muscles constrict, and it is a reflex action. Endothelium release endothelin, which acts on endothelin receptors A and B present in the smooth muscle. Then we observe formation of a clot, which are primary hemostasis. Platelets come in contact with some subendothelial connective tissue due to damage. And then we have endothelium produces von Willebrand factor. The von Willebrand factor helps the platelets bind to the collagen, and when platelets bind, they become activated, and they are activated as this results in activated platelets change in shape and release their contents. Example of these contents are ADP, TXA2, and serotonin, right? So remember that uses for ADP include activation for more platelets, therefore it brings more platelets to the site and causes more platelet aggregation. Whereas TXA2 and serotonin, they're responsible for producing vasoconstriction and platelet aggregation, right? So for now, we have, so basically when this happens, we have the platelet aggregation. It forms the primary hemostatic plug, right? The disadvantage of primary hemostatic plug is that not all of them are strong, right? They are not able to control the bleeding completely. Therefore, we need a fibrin to bind these platelets stronger, and thus preventing bleeding, right? So we observe in damaged tissue factor 3, right? It's released from the subendothelium in the blood vessels, the graph that I showed before, right? The subendothelium releases tissue factor 3, and the role of tissue factor 3, it releases thrombin production, right? It makes thrombin production, and thrombin is responsible for the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. And when we have the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin, the fibrin gets deposited between platelets and seals the clot and makes it more strong. Therefore, when this happens, when the sealing occurs, this is called the secondary hemostatic plug. The process is called secondary hemolysis, whereas the process of the creation of the primary hemostatic plug is called primary hemostasis. Now let's go on to thrombosis. So basically, thrombosis is a pathological process which is an inappropriate activation of normal hemostatic process and leads to the formation of blood clots in normal vessels that are not even injured, right? The components of hemostasis, remember, is vascular cell wall, which is endothelium, subendothelial connective tissue, platelets, remember, hemostasis, thrombosis, and coagulation cascade leading to fibrin production. So phospholipid complex expression, okay? Remember that they need to make an appointment, and these platelets act as a base for the clotting factors, right? activation of the platelets and cells as a base, adds as a base, and for coagulation cascade and resulting in a strong clot formation, right? Clot, remember, is formed to stop bleeding, but is stopped to prevent occlusion of the blood vessels, right? Remember that clots are used to stop bleeding, but eventually there's a time where the clotting is stopped due to maintain normal blood flow, right? You don't want to continue clotting where it completely occludes the artery. You'll die, you have necrosis. So we have the presence of TPA, which is a tissue plasma activator. This is responsible for the conversion of plasminogen to plasmin, and plasmin is responsible for fibrinolysis. And fibrinolysis lets this to break down and prevention of total occlusion of clot by clots. So TPA are set into motion to limit the hemostatic plug. Okay, it's basically, it maintains limitations. A normal endothelium has antithrombotic ability, right? It has abilities for it has antiplatelet, anticoagulant, and fibrinolytic ability. Basically, the antiplatelet effects, basically, as intact endothelium separates platelets and coagulation proteins from subendothelium collagen, right? Separates it, so it doesn't prevent coagulation occur. Remember, important thing, endothelium prevents platelet aggregation by what? PG12 or prostacyclin and nitric oxide. These inhibit platelet aggregation via and occurs and allows vasodilation to occur. Remember, the most important thing is that prostacyclin and nitric oxide, they prevent platelet aggregation. Endothelium is responsible for having antithrombotic properties. Anticoagulant effects have membrane-associated heparin-like molecules and thrombomodulin, which is thrombin receptors, right? Remember, the third process is fibrinolysis, and basically it's achieved by tissue-type plasminogen activators, TPA. Okay, now let's proceed with endothelium. Endothelium has prothrombotic properties seen in endothelial injury, exposure of subendothelial collagen, release of von Willebrand factor leads to platelets, right? So basically, endothelium cells proceeds to tissue factor, which then proceeds to extrinsic coagulation sequence. But remember, interleukin-1, Turner necrosis factor, and bacterial endotoxin is responsible for endothelial cells to produce tissue factors, right? Okay. So platelets, they have two types of granules: alpha granule and the dense bodies, or delta granules. Remember, alpha granules or delta granules. Now let's know the different roles of these granules. Alpha granule is adhesion molecule p-selectin. It has fibrinogen, fibronectin, factor 5 and 8, platelet factor 4, and TGF beta. Delta granules have ADP, ATP, ionized calcium, and histamine, serotonin, and epinephrine. Excuse me there. Platelet aggregation, ADP and thromboxane A2 secreted by platelets are important for platelet aggregation. Remember that. ADP and TXA2 they are set up as an autocatalytic reaction, leading to what? Leading to the buildup of enlarging platelet aggregates, the primary hemostatic plug. So thrombin binds to platelet receptors along with ADP and TXA2 causes further aggregation. This is followed by platelet contraction, creating an irreversible fused mass of platelets consisting of the definitive secondary hemostatic plug. And so that basically covers hemostatic plugs and hemostasis, primary and secondary hemostasis. All right, well, that ends it. Thank you very much for listening, and you have a nice day.